Hey guys, how you doing today? Today we're gonna take a look at programming. So simple Python stuff. But first, let's grab some tea. And for me, it's one of my favorite teas. Really, it's the favorite tea I've got till now. It's called Archiolu. And if you're laughing right now because of my pronunciation, I went to China then once back in 2019. And I told the woman there at the tea shop, could I get some enshi yulu? And she was like, what? Enshi yulu? She just didn't know. And it's just the pronunciation, it's really like that. It's enshi yulu. Not 100% sure if I'm doing that correct, but it's way better than enshi yulu. It's not she, it's she, enshi yulu. All right, but I'm not an expert in Chinese language. We have to ask Cody for that. But without further ado, today I will be celebrating the first cup of tea in this channel. And I hope you heard that, because this microphone is a little bit sensitive. So first things first, what I'm doing here, you cannot see it really, but I have a little tea set here. So it's like a teapot. It's really tiny. You can see that. That's what I poured that in. I have some water here with 80 degrees Celsius. And the first flush, it's just to get rid of the bitterness. So first flush means I'm just pouring that right into the can. And this goes to one of my lovely plants here in my room. And now the second one. Second one is the real first one you want to drink. What I just not did right here, because a little bit want to make it not super long here, is that you want to get a taste on the smelling, right? Just want to smell like what the tea tastes like in the beginning. But yeah, okay, I'm looking forward to this cup of tea. It's, as I told you, it's my favorite cup of tea. My favorite tea. But you have to be careful with this one. So the thing is, you don't have to let it be in the hot water for too long, because then it will get bitter very quick. Very quick. So that's about it. 1 to 2 minutes. Put that in and put that into my little tiny cup. Because the Chinese teacups are really tiny. So it's like this. See that? I have to hide my face because the face detection. So this is the size of the teacup. Wow, that's heaven. That's heaven. Alright, now, as this is settled, and the name of this channel is taken seriously into account, I want to start with a little introduction to the topic which we want to cover today. So today is all about reading in files and getting data from it. It's a common task, and as I'm aware that there are better ways, faster ways of doing that, by using libraries like NumPy, SciPy, something like that, I want to do it with just plain Python, because what I think is important, that you get a understanding of how you want to approach a problem, tackle it, you know? Just how you get this algorithmic thinking. And you have to do that maybe once or twice for the beginning, just to see how things work. And this is what we want to do here. All right, now first things first, what I want to show you today is we have a file, CSV file, that stands for comma separated values, I guess. And this is just a file which basically has two columns. One, there's ID, and then there's value. And here are numbers like integers, and here are values like floating points. The task is now to get the ID where the value is at a maximum. So this will be our task. And the way we want to approach this is by looping through those rows of the file, and then just selecting the one where the value is maximum. So no really difficult stuff here, but it's good to see how this works, and also setup and first things in Python and Visual Studio Code. So let's get started. All right, now what I have done here at the beginning is I have created a new folder, and in this folder there's this file, findmax from file.py. And there's just a simple test code for me to test if it's working. And now we want to begin with the coding. This is the one thing. The other thing what I have proposed here is proposed, the wrong word, prepared. What I prepared here is values.csv. This is the CSV file I was talking about. And if you open that in Notepad, you see the ID and max. Okay. Now I want to have that as a value. Oh, I cannot save this file because it's let me see. No. I think it's because it's running in here. Let's see if I can change it here. Value. Control S, fail to save. Busy. I don't know what's that causing, but it's not a problem. So we leave it as max, maybe. But then it's called max, but not value. All right, it's not a big problem for us. Basically, it works the same. Now this is a test code, and the other thing is here the terminal. So you saw that with my colleague Cody, that you have that split to the right, and by default it's like this, and you can change it by clicking here and move panel right. If you don't have a terminal, you can set it up here. All right, and this is a CMD terminal, so just like if you open command window, that's the same thing. Now let's get going. All right, so first things, what we need is a little bit of libraries, because we want to read the CSV, and I don't want to do that manually. But yeah, I will use import CSV. So CSV is used for reading the file. And then later on, we will use the math toolbox, or math library, and that's why I'm posting here import math. All right, so if you want to open a file, this is the way you do it. So with open, and then you have the file name in here. In this case, it's values.csv as CSV file. I will explain that in a minute. I want to do it. We'll do something, print 1. So what this does is it opens a file, and the way I want to address it then later on in the script is with this variable name CSV file, but it stays open just until this with block ends. So it closes it automatically, because maybe you heard of it. If you open a file, you have to close it. Otherwise, something weird happens, like this we had at the beginning, that you cannot save a file because it's still open in some program. And so you just have to make sure it's closed. And the way you do this, in this case, is you just put every operation, what you want to do, while the file is opened, within this with block. And this is what we want to do. All right, but print 1 is not a good idea. We want to read the file first. Right, so the way to use the CSV reader, or CSV, is to start with a CSV reader. So this is just a name. A CSV reader equals CSV dot reader. You can see that also is prompted here. And you want to address the CSV file. You see it here. First of all, the CSV file. This will get an iterable back as a text. And then you have this dialect. Yeah. And you have some additional parameters. So it is CSV file. That's the name, which I used here, and I did a typo here. Sorry about that. CSV file. And here, what we also want to do is we want to give it a delimiter. Delimiter equals the semicolon. Why is that? Let's go back to the values. Where it is. Let's see here. So you see here that the file is separated with a certain symbol, character. In this case, we use the semicolon. And the CSV reader has to define what is the actual symbol, which changes columns. Yeah. And so the delimiter here is specified. I think it could also work if it's not specified, but rather be safe than sorry. Now we will begin with a line count of 0, because in the first line there's something different. First line you see that there are the column names, and then there's the numbers and the values, or the IDs and the values. And so line count 0 is a good thing to do. And then let's start with printing all the lines. So for row in CSV reader, in this case, this is what the CSV reader got. Yeah, that's yeah, so the what came out of this operation. So CSV reader, CSV.reader posted the return value into this variable CSV reader. And this is what we are iterating through. Now, if the line count equals 0, so this is the first line, then we do something different. And else, this is all the other lines. We do another printing stuff. All right. Now let's do a print here. Print now the f strings. I didn't know that before I was doing that video, but if you want to ever print a statement which has strings in it and variables, you can use the f strings. So you just start with the letter f and then the quotation signs, and then you put in something like column names r, and then if you have a variable, you have these curly brackets. Then you can do a variable operation. For example, comma dot join row. So this does join all the columns together with the character comma. Yeah, comma. And then puts it into here. And this is a variable. But you don't have to make this quotation signs for the string, then plus variable, plus another part of the string. You can do it all in one string. That's pretty cool. And you have then, obviously, you have to increase the line count number, because you read one line and then the line counter must go up. So line count plus equals, which means it's incrementing by that number, plus equals 1. So this is the same thing, just to be clear, as line counter equals line counter plus 1. So just to be on the same page here. All right, and else we want to print something different. Print, and now again an f string. Our ID is now curly brackets for value. Row 0, so it's the first index, that's first column. And our value, lots of typos today. Value is, again, curly brackets, row 1. All right, so this is printed out here. And after all this is done, we can print the number of lines we have processed. Processed lines. And again, the curly brackets, line count. And what did I miss here? Exactly. If I don't have the first line, but the other lines, I also have to increase line by line the, sorry about that, the line count. All right, I think this is fine for now. So with open the value CSV as CSV file, I go and take just the values, just the file into this variable, iterating through the rows, counting line count up every line. And if the line is the first line, I print the column names, and if it's not the first line, I print the values. Let's give it a go. So F5 for running it, Python file, and you see the IDs and values. And at the end, I see processed lines 310. Okay, now if I want to find the max, I just want to do the algorithmic thinking a little bit here. And sorry, this is a little bit a longer video, but it's not that much what's left. So iterating through each row, I will have two values or two variables. First one is ID underscore max. Second one is value underscore max. Initially, I will set the ID max to 0 and the value max to -infinity. And then by iterating through here, I will just look at the value. And if the value is bigger than my current max I have seen, and then at the first number it will always be, because every number is bigger than -infinity, I will just take this value and store it in here. And as well, I will store the ID into here. And by the end of the day, after iterating through all the rows, I will get the ID where the maximum occurred and the maximum itself. So let's do that. So the first thing here is the two variables. ID max equals 0. Value max equals math.infinity. But in this case, we want to have -infinity. This is what this stands for. And now I don't want to be comparing those values to the values into the file in the first line, because it's not possible, because we have just string values here, but in the other sections of the file. So in this case here. Now if and I have to use the float operator. I will talk about it in a minute. Float row 1. So this is the value. Bigger than value max. Then ID max, comma, value max equals row 0 and row 1. Now what this is doing, it's converting first of all the row 1, so the value, to float, because at the beginning it's just a string, just text. It cannot compare what's bigger in strings. But if you convert it into a float, it's comparable. And this is what I'm doing here. I convert the string value, which is in this case row 1, to a float. And I ask here if it's bigger than my current value max. If that's the case, and only if that's the case, the ID max will be row 0 and the value max will be row 1. And now at the end of the day, I should be able to print max. And here, well, copy option was not that of a time saver here, is ID max. Or in this case, let's see, max ID. And max value. Again, curly braces. I like this with the curly braces. That's pretty good. Cool. Value max. All right, should work. Let's see. Just hit run and take another sip of tea. Oh, God. You see, it's good that this error occurred, because now we can check if what didn't happen here. So bigger sign, or more or less equal, is not supported between instances of float and string. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And that's why so row is a string, and with the float operator, this should get converted to a float. Now the only difference is if value max is a string. All right, I know what happened. The problem is not here, the problem is here, because I assigned ID max. In this case, not a problem, because we are not calculating with ID max something, but the value max is row 1, and this in this case gets assigned a string value. So you have to use the floating operator here once again, because yeah. Or you could also use it here. This would also be possible, but I think this is fine. So once again, run it. It's good that you see the error here, because then you see, in this case, if you get something like this, you know what to look for. And now you see here max ID is 188, and you can see that, yeah. And the value is 1.5. What? Oh, okay, I didn't. just thought I did it completely wrong. But here, yeah, max ID is 180, and the maximum value is 9.8. So just to quickly check that, what you can do is to just copy that. So Control C, then take an Excel sheet, and you see that's where the values came from. But I will paste it here. And text converter. Right, I just import the values here that I have it column separated. Same thing. Right, and oh, oh, the decimal places. I'm sorry about that. Let me do that once again. It's pretty awkward, but you see that how I'm doing this in Excel may also be of interest to you. So you select what separator you want here, and then on here you click on Erweitert, Advanced, I think. And here you can see what's decimal. Decimal separator is a dot, I guess, and 1000 separator. I think this should work. Okay. Now we can see that here. And what I want to just look up here is just an easy check, the maximum value of this whole column. Right? And this is 9.8 something, and it's the same thing we got here. So we can be pretty sure that our code was correct. All right, that concludes this video. I hope you had a great time following along. Sorry for the mistakes, but as always, those are part of the process and part of the learning, so I think it's not a good idea to cut them always out, but to just honestly show the process to you. And if that helped you, I'm glad if you like that. Comment, subscribe, like, you know what to do. And I will happily be seeing you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.